Welcome back. This is Deep Cut number 2, and if you're just joining us, you can find the complete webinar recordings in a playlist on our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single section.
All righty. Deep Cut 2, Ian, take it away.
All right. So, eliminating friction between sales and marketing. So, the question that we posed was the relationship between sales and marketing is frictionless. These, I guess it's not a Sorry, it's a statement for them to agree with, not a question. This is not Jeopardy. These departments share tech and work together towards goals. And Achievers came out well ahead in their stronger agreement with this statement, followed by Cynics actually at 54%, which I find very interesting and also not terribly surprising, which I'll get into in a minute. And Believers trailing at 44. But by far, Achievers are leading the pack and maybe leaving them in the dust a little bit with 85%. That's frankly shocking.
Yeah, strong agreement at 85%.
Like strong agreement. Amazing. And this is the best. This is the
almost
best of the
universal
best.
In that group that there's friction between those two, which is really interesting.
It's wild. And like to look at the data overall, next we had a few gradations in that scale of like, is it frictionless? Is it kind of mean? Like, are there like kind of getting down through there? And what we found was that almost 40% of organizations don't have a super functional sales and marketing relationship, which to me feels about right. And 61 is frictionless, which I think, again, this ratio felt about right, where for the most part, folks are going to get along and there's not going to be friction. Now, frictionless doesn't mean that they're fully cohesive and they're, in each other's Slack channels or whatever, but at least there's not like no one's antagonizing each other, because I've seen that too. And that's just not fun. I think everyone, especially in this kind of industry and manufacturing where so many sales teams, like we said, are really focused on these handshake relationships. And in B2B, it really is relationship driven. It's with even from agencies working with them, like want to do these interviews and getting to know the customer, the sales team, the customer success team, the marketing team. It's not the kind of thing you can just do as a one-off very effectively or efficiently. You're going to be leaving a lot on the cutting room floor if you're just trying to run to the finish line.
So this is something we're going to get into more in the report as well. But marketing attribution is a complicated thing, and this ties into tech stack and your metrics and demonstrating ROI and stuff as well. But one of the things that we saw is that marketing attribution itself can be very tricky, because we'll take a technical example. If you're running, say, paid search and paid social at the same time, depending on how like your marketing tech stack is set up, either channel could report the attribution for, say, a lead generator. And while this isn't literally the same thing, if you look at this almost philosophically here, marketing and sales sometimes wind up in the same boat, where both teams would like to raise their hand and take credit for a sale and say, hey, that's all us right there. And you really have to recognize that it's a team effort, that it's not one versus the other. It's the two things working together that creates the success. And, it's important not to get too hung up on specifically where you're attributing, where you're attributing success when it's a team effort.
Yeah, I see so many organizations. This is really, to me, such a leadership-based issue, such a culture-based issue to deal with, because I've seen so many organizations where leadership, either just because they're not paying attention or because they are doing this on purpose, are really setting sales and marketing in competition with each other. We're going to talk about metrics. And so, they'll have sales KPIs and they'll have marketing KPIs.
Yes.
When they prioritize one above the other, everything goes to hell in a handbasket, and I think so. A lot of this one, to me, I think there's only so much that the individual teams could do if leadership is not supporting a sense that we're all working towards the same thing, and we need to work together. And I just think leadership is to blame when something like this is happening. At a lot of organizations, it is.
We'll talk more as well about the importance of how you secure leadership buy-in as well, and like what that looks like, and two, how do you get it?
Right.
Yeah, I think that both of these roles are very performance based, and that becomes very personal feeling very fast. And they're also both directly related to growing the company's bottom line, so the consequences can feel really real. And for sales, we're really focused on what's right in front of us when we're doing like direct selling, whereas marketing, the team is really focused on like what's possible, what's on the horizon. And it's not so much about these necessarily individual relationships as it is about the demographics and the personas and the customer as a more general concept than someone you're literally shaking hands with. And it's really, both of those perspectives are fully essential. And I think one thing that can happen with leadership is, especially when you with some smaller shops or larger shops that started small, sometimes the CEO or someone high in leadership was the entire sales department at one point. So they have a favorite child from the get-go because they wrote the first Excel file that grew into the team they have now. And so, it's important that they both see they have each other's backs, and that, no matter what your tools you're using, it's key to find a connection. And one thing that I was thinking about is, even if your teams are really siloed, this isn't to advocate for like putting everyone into a common group space and dissolving barriers. We still need to have those walls there. But even if you're completely siloed and you feel like you're working for two different companies, you can still get lunch with each other and still collaborate. The marketing department just can take on more of almost an internal agency mindset, where once again, the sales department is your client. So as an internal marketing team, sometimes the best way to think of your sales department, if there's this big divide there, is that they're your client. They're who you need to get to know. They're the gatekeepers of some of that important data regarding sales pipeline, close rates, things that you need to prove your ROI, and in some cases justify your existence. Going to the sales team is where you're going to get that ROI. Sharing the insights between those things. Again, we're either breaking down the silos or we're just building better silos that can collaborate. It's and you can share those same insights with them and capabilities. Like, I think sometimes just showing sales like, hey, we actually have a really big toolbox that we can give you access to, that we can share. And on the other hand, the sales team has that data you need to generate better qualified leads. And so if you can do that through a tech stack that keeps your efforts in sync and improves communication and keeps the customer centered, that's great. If you got to do it through a spreadsheet and some lunch and learns, as long as it gets done, that it's beyond frictionless. It's like, well, instead of being frictionless, you're like stuck together, right? So as long as you're not butting heads, you're going to be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, even a small step is a step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good deal.
I think it's important to remember that, like, Ian, you were talking about the sales team as your customer if you're in the internal department, but you can also have, it sort of says you can have multiple customers within your company if you're in marketing.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
Talk to a lot of companies where actually their biggest priority for marketing has to do with their current customers and nurturing their current customers. And if that's the case, then customer success is your number one customer. And customer success is going to be the people that are coming back to you and saying, these are the things that we want you to shift. These are the things you want to change. And just so long as you have that understanding of who in the company are you supposed to be serving, where and how are they going to understand that you're helping them? Because I think this is a huge part of when marketing companies or marketing departments get really cut off from the rest of the organization. There's this sense from other people in the organization of marketing's doing their own thing. They don't care about me. They don't care about my. We're not important to them. And, that might be true if leadership has decided that, they don't really want you bothering with them over there, right? But if it's not, and if marketing is there and they're tasked with helping those other departments, establishing with those those departments right away, hey, which metrics, which KPIs are important for us, and if we're working on them, how is that going to make you feel seen, understood, and supported and helped by us, your marketing team, who are here to be your help.
Mm-hmm.
You bet.
Exactly.
Thank you for watching. If you're on our playlist, the next deep cut should be queued up right ahead of this one. If not, you can find the full playlist of the webinar on our YouTube channel. And as always, we got the links to the PDF, DataViz tool, and quiz right in the description below. Thank you.